and welcome to another edition of the Morning Briefing. I'm Jeff DeForest, along with one Mike, Mr. Morocco, Lubie Lubitz, as we get closer and closer to the weekend and the weekend of activity on the gridiron, both college and pro, coming off a week which, as we apologized for yesterday and the day before, the horror the horror. I mean, it was literally Colonel Kurt's time, man. We were going out on a slab there and just thinking about, my God, how could we possibly have endured this much torture in the early portion of the season? I think a lot of people are upside down very early on. So we're going to try and make a couple of determinations over the next few days that can help you make some kind of a score. Now, I am off on one of my junkets to Atlantic City. And Luby, I'm hoping you're going to hold the court here on No Filter for the next couple of days, and maybe even relay some of the selections of our people on our Degenerate Friday show, which unfortunately I did last week, and now I had to take credit for them. I'm not making any excuses. It's not like I want to point fingers in other directions. Yeah, it was you. You know the kind of guy that the feds get a hold of him. This could be happening quite frequently over the next several months. But the feds get a hold of the guy, and before they even say, "Mr. DeForest, would you like to have a seat?" You're saying, "It was Luby. It was Luby." But we gave out a couple of losers last week, and we're going to try and get on the bandwagon this week. I will be betting these games from Atlantic City, New Jersey, which is one of my favorite stops on the USA Degenerate Tour. This is, I guess, a cut above that Jamaica OTB that I frequented when I was on the road and frequently traveling to New York City. And you're looking around, it's where I had my ultimate religious epiphany. And I was in a room with the sickest looking bunch of degenerates that you'd ever seen. They all looked like they came off the old album cover by Jethro Tull, Aqualung, sitting on a park bench. And I'm looking around the room and saying, now, what a sick bunch of bastards these guys are. And then I realized I'm one of them. And I thought, my God, here's the deal. If this is purgatory, then hell must be the same room full of people without the ability to bet on the horse races. And that was kind of it. And you could take that over to Atlantic City, although it's coming back around a little bit. It's not the scummy bloodbath of depravity that it was maybe going back a few years ago. It's sort of bouncing back a little bit. They have the sports books there, and I don't know. Have they ever gotten around to legalizing sports wagering in Florida here, Louie? That was supposed to happen this week. Although they have some cockamamie deal with the Native American tribe that dominates gambling here in the state of Florida, the Seminole tribe.
Yeah, supposedly they won their case, but again, I'm going to leave it to you. I don't know what that means. Like, I don't know what that means.
I don't know what it means either. Nobody knows what it means. I think it's all contingent, and this is not meant in any kind of defaming or disparaging way, but it's all contingent on Cochise coming back to life. Whether or not we get gambling here in the state of Florida approved, which it doesn't seem to matter because this is a degenerate state. The people are betting whether they have it legalized here or not. You can go into a bagel shop and start calling out bets, and it literally would be like walking into the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. Might even be a little bit more sophisticated in the receipts that they give you. Hey, Mo. Yeah, no, he wants Rutgers over Michigan. Can you believe this guy? Yeah, and get him the pumpernickel and one with sesame. That's Florida. That's the way that it works down here. But we're inclined to get involved. I'll be in Atlantic City. It's always great there. I did get a reservation at my favorite restaurant there. It's a place called Chef Vola's. Nice. If you've never been to Atlantic City, Luby, you haven't had the pleasure of dining at Chef Vola's. It's great. There is talk that there's another place now that's even better, but I find that hard to imagine. And beyond that, I am largely a creature of habit. And it got a lot easier to deal with Chef Vola's because if you go back as recently as, I guess, pre-COVID-19, this is one of the changes, to get a table at Chef Vola's, even if you were calling 6 months in advance, you had to know a guy who knew a guy who had actually done more than a couple of years in a New Jersey state penitentiary.
That'd be amazing.
So he says he knows Vinny. Okay, all right. Tell me, what's the name of Vinny's cat? And that's how you got the reservation there. And that would be the way they took care of you. So looking forward to that. You do have the guys over in the corner of the Borgata Sports and Race Book. And I don't know, do they all, there's an outlet shop there. Can you buy like the same Nike warm-up suit in a million different sizes because you always have the tall guy with the gold chains. And then you got the short, fat guy. Yeah, 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 yeah. Vinny said he was coming over. He's going to have your money. Don't worry about it. And that's the conversation that you're getting wind of. And just a bunch of wise guys over in the corner, always there. Part of the scenery that I really enjoy when I'm going to Atlantic City. But very accommodating the people there because my wife's a slot player. And what would you want? I mean, would you want some Japanese billionaire to come to Harris in Atlantic City? No.
No.
You would want my wife, Mustang Sally DeForest. Slot machine addiction, and like it was crack cocaine. Unbelievable. No amount of money that she's up or down seems to sway her from the desire to play more. And I can tell when she's losing, and I can tell when she's winning also, because usually I want to snatch about 7 or 8 sticks, take it back to the Borgata Racebook, where I'll be plunging my brains out. But I am inclined to get involved with this Florida State game, Lubie, and of course you are a giant Florida State fan, as evidenced by the helmet in the background. Is that a signed Bobby Bowden edition of the
Signed
Seminoles
Charlie
helmet?
Ward, your favorite Seminole ever. Charlie
Charlie
Ward.
what? Charlie what?
Yes.
Charlie Ward. That's how Bobby said it. Charlie Ward. Of course, it was Charlie Ward, but we are in a semi-hillbilly state, so the people understand, hillbilly quite easily.
Quite well.
And they knew that it was Charlie Cholly Ward, WAWD, according to Bobby Bowden, like he was a cartoon character. Charlie Ward, the Roadrunner. All right, good. I mean, there's physical evidence here on the show that you are a huge Florida State fan.
Yes.
Which I would imagine would incline you to go ahead and lay the 2.5 points. Florida State, at least according to the odds I'm looking at right now, is going to allot Clemson at home, with Clemson always a danger, even though it seems like the program has dropped off significantly in the last couple of years.
Well, the offense isn't what it was when Jeff Scott and Tony, he's now the head coach of Virginia, were the coordinators, and it's a lot has been put on Dabo, and Dabo is not, I guess, the offensive guru people thought he was. And Klubnik is not Trevor Lawrence, and he's not Deshaun Watson. I mean, it's just a different class of quarterback. And Florida State, but Florida State is coming off their struggles in the fourth quarter against Boston College, so that's why I think it's 2.5 and not 6 or 7. I think it'll be close. I think it'll be tight, but I think Florida State will win in the end, and I think they'll win comfortably. I don't know. We do our morning show, and our friend Tony Segredo thinks it'll be double digits. I don't know if it'll be 15-20, but I could see them winning like 10-14. Right. I just think Florida State will be focused, and I'm curious what they do the rest of the year.
All right, so you're willing to lay the 2 and a hook. It sounds like that's your inclination. I think I might be inclined to go against that, even though I'd be rooting for Florida State. I root against Clemson with every emotional fiber that I possess. I'm not a fan of Clemson, and Clemson literally scared the daylights out of me. The couple of times that I was there on a couple of occasions to call basketball games, and this had to be circa early 90s with the University of Miami. Leonard Hamilton was the coach who oddly became very successful for at least a period of time there with Florida State. Last couple of years, not so great. Yeah. We'll see if he can bounce back. But did have great success with Florida State going much further in the NCAA tournament during Leonard Hamilton's tenure than you ever perceived that they were capable of going, especially with Leonard Hamilton as coach. If it was the same Leonard that was coaching the University of Miami, which couldn't get out of its own way back in the day, although the program had only recently been resurrected and it was left in a shambles, and Leonard Hamilton came into a somewhat, well, you would have to say, a very compromising situation. And then he had no luck also. But he had a kind of, a set of stones, a chutzpah that I will never forget. And it occurred, and I still can visualize this, Lubie, and we touched on it earlier this morning when we were doing our regular morning show here in South Florida. And I'll never forget this. We're on a bus, so we get on a team bus, basketball bus, a huge bus, nice luxury bus, and you have like 15 young black men. You have a black head coach, assistant. I was one of maybe 4 white guys on this bus. Mm-hmm. I felt totally comfortable with the team. It was fantastic. And so we're going to what I think is going to be like a decent restaurant that they were going to stop at and have like a team dinner before they got to the hotel.
Mhm.
but we get lost in the woods somewhere. And I don't mean to imply, Luby, I don't know. Do we have an overwhelming hillbilly anti-bias here on this program because of the fact that we are originating from Florida,
But we're in southern
where it's
Florida,
not
so
uncommon to be greeted, by somebody in the northern parts of the state with a saying like, "Hey, squat down like a pig,"
like.
while banjo music is playing heavily in the background. We mentioned this in relation to the Florida game last week. Well, South Carolina, man, this part of South Carolina, wow. I mean, you're talking about deep South. So we're on this bus with a bunch of young black kids, and obviously very tall and looking like
Yeah.
they be not to make it stereotypical, but it's quite possible. The only reason these people are here is because they're a basketball team from out of town. And Leonard Hamilton, when we're lost somewhere in the woods, and he sees a place that has like a diner sign on it. And he goes in and walks up to the front desk. This is the head coach of the University of Miami basketball team. Would go on to coach, for Michael Jordan
Yep, NBA.
and the Wizards, and then take over Florida State, do some great things. A very distinctive guy. He was a hell of a recruiter when he was at Kentucky. Got credit
Yep.
for a lot of the success that the Wildcats had.
Yep.
And so a very successful basketball career. Distinguished guy too. A really solid citizen and a good guy.
Yeah.
And he walks up to the front there, and there are two guys, and they're having a contest to see who could spit tobacco into a spittoon that was about 30 feet away.
Oh, Jesus.
And they barely even look up as this man is standing there, and all of these tall young black men are kind of assembled behind him. And he casually asks when they finally look up and pay attention to him, and he says, "Would you know a place where we can get some soul food around here?" And it was right out of Animal House, where it was like saying, "You mind if we dance with your dates?"
Oh my God.
That kind of thing. Never forget it. So it's a very intimidating place. This is my problem with Clemson. A
Mhm.
very intimidating place. I don't know that the team is going to stop on its way there at that particular restaurant, which I would doubt is in existence anymore, because it seemed like a place that might have accidentally been torched when somebody lit up the still. What was Leonard thinking, man, walking in there that that he was going to find a soul food restaurant?
I just thought that he asked.
The look on these people's faces, I mean, it was just it was unbelievable. So on the hillbilly factor, I'm reluctant to embrace Florida State, but I will be rooting for them heavily. And my recollection of being in that area, or it's not particularly flattering or favorable, based on that whole Leonard Hamilton thing. Now, the other thing that came up, interesting question: do you believe there's any possibility of this? It's kind of a silly thing, it seems like, but came up on the Tom Brady radio show that he does during, I believe, the radio telecast on Westwood One of Monday Night Football, and he's on with, the world's most despised sportscaster, Jim Gray. Now, I'm not one of these people that, people seem to be polarized on Brady. Brady's fine. He had a great career. I think, he does a lot of good things, right? As a sports fan, did you not appreciate watching Brady over the years, even if you rooted against the Patriots with everything that you had in your heart? It's possible, that you could have harbored some resentment against him, especially if you were a rival team in the AFC East, which we are in Miami. New York Jet fans, I don't know. Are they going to embrace Brady? So the irony of Brady possibly coming back to be the savior of the New York Jets after the pathetic performance of Zach Wilson, which, again, I don't mean to be hammering the Zach Wilson guy. I hope he has a great career, and maybe he will find himself somewhere. But the idea, the notion that you should just blindly, have complete blind faith, because I can't find my way home.
Exactly.
I mean, what are we talking about? Let's see if we can get Ginger off drugs long enough to go out there and play the concert at Royal Albert Hall. Can't find my way home. I mean, is it not like trying to get back together, Lubie? And I think you have tried this, although I believe you may be sensible enough. And your
Yes.
generation is sensible enough not to fall into the romantic mistake and believe that you can get back with your ex. Because what is going to happen?
Same shit.
The same shit as before. Correct?
Yes. 100%.
It might
Not
be
even
all right,
kidding.
right? I mean, maybe you resurrect the part of the relationship that was favorable. which was only the sex.
Yeah, well, that's it. The sex is good for like a month, and then you're like, oh yeah, I remember why I hated her.
Exactly. You want to run for the hills, man. You feel like Zach Wilson behind that Jet offensive line. Unbelievable. So, I mean, the idea that Brady would come back and quarterback the Jets, he left it very vaguely, which, is a kind of answer. He's on his own show, for God's sake. It's a Tom Brady show. And we're supposed to believe that he also is going to Subway sub shops and getting the tuna on wheat.
Eating his avocado ice.
And Jim Gray is feeding him this bullshit. And we're supposed to buy it. And Jim Gray, look, if you didn't hate him before that Pete Rose interview at the All-Star game, where, he kept badgering Pete, and I understand there's always the one guy, the one twerp that you could put up to asking the question that nobody else wants to ask.
Yep.
And sometimes at press conferences, you'll see that where there's one guy and he thinks he's going to be this vigilante reporter and come in there and, get right to the truth. It's just, it doesn't fit. It really doesn't. I mean, when Pete's standing there, they finally let him back in the ballpark, for God's sake. And Jim Gray's going, so you want to admit right here to the millions of people that are watching, Pete, that you bet on baseball, you degenerate cocksucker. That's Jim Gray's question. He gets in the ring after a fight. How would you grade your performance? You're hoping the guy just slugs him. What kind of stupid question is that? What is this? Kindergarten? Man, I just got hit in the face for 12 rounds by Oscar De La Hoya. How would I grade this performance?
Okay.
My God. So, yeah, it was sickening enough that it came from Gray. The decision, another example.
Yes.
I mean, you couldn't find LeBron James. That is the one thing. I mean, a lot of people knock LeBron James, but he has done nothing ever more hideous, even embracing the Chinese, than
embracing Gray.
Subjecting us to Jim Gray for 59 minutes and 50 seconds while, he asked him innocuous questions. Well, this boys club is really taking off. And all we want to know is, are you playing for the Heat or what?
Exactly.
And then finally, he gets the decision. Well, I'm taking my talents to Miami. Jim Gray, puffing a big chest out there. It's like, you couldn't have said this an hour ago, and we could have gone on to other things in our life. That would have been great.
Go.
So we'll permanently, hold a resentment and some kind of grudge against LeBron James for that. But so Brady's on with Jim Gray, and he says, I'm happy doing what I'm doing. He gives you a Kyle Shanahan answer.
Yep.
Well, how do I know if I'm going to be alive tomorrow? I'm assuming you are. Okay, Kyle, is that a fair assumption?
What do you know? We don't know.
We're not rooting for you to get hit by a bus like we might be if it was Nick Saban that was doing the talking. But Brady coming back to be the savior of the. How far fetched is that, Libby? Would you pay any attention to that and give it any credibility? And how wild of a story would it be? I'm rooting for it to happen at this point.
Oh, well, that's the thing. Well, first of all, his answer was like when the coach gets the vote of confidence.
Yeah.
Like the guy's fired the next day. Like that's the 100% the I love what I'm doing as he's working out a deal to do something new.
Yeah. He's already got it.
But what's funny is I can't stand the Jets or the Patriots. But to see the Patriot fan have to watch Brady in a Jet uniform, I feel like that would be fantastic. So I'm openly rooting for it because I think he's done. So it won't make the Jets good. But I also get to see Patriot fans squirm watching him in gang green. I think that would be friggin' amazing.
Be insane, yeah. All right, I'm going to have to get ready for that Spirit Airlines flight.
Yes, sir. Oh, Jesus.
Which I hope I don't get involved in one of those ugly scenes at the counter.
Well, you have bought everything known to man, right? Like you aren't the nickel. You have bought stuff.
Right?
The
weigh-in is scarier than when you would be at one of the Don King fight cards, and you saw Don was hovering around the scale. This is going to be like trying to weigh in Ricky Hatton at the 140-pound limit. When you saw him walking around 2 days before the fight at 196. And you're wondering how it's going to happen, and how embarrassing is it? I mean, I don't know. Do you stoop to, taking your wife's bra and underwear out of the suitcase to try and shave the last ounce so you don't have to pay the $55 surcharge for an extra pound?
15 years ago.
1 pound over, my friend. And they whack you. And they have been trained. I mean, these people could get anybody to confess to anything. They are just unwavering when it comes to the human cruelty that they are willing to impart to make sure that you don't get away with an extra pound of baggage in your luggage. And of course, what is my wife bringing? But 6 bottles of wine. They don't have any good wine there.
Wine
The whole
Jersey.
fucking city. They don't have any good wine. It's actually true. It's hard to find. All right, we have to run. I'm gonna have a good time. So Lubie will take the reins the next couple of days. Florida State. I don't know that game and the Notre Dame game are very troubling for me. Because I have trouble, and difficulty going against Clemson in the spot. The 18 penalties. I think last week. I mean, if they don't benefit from that, did they even flag Doug Flutie, I believe, for intentional grounding in that game? My God. I mean, you talk about having a lot to overcome, and Boston College is right there. They're knocking on the door.
Honestly.
So that scared me a little bit. Mike Norvell's penchant to blow games that he otherwise should be winning handily, has not necessarily been a pattern that's been erased. And the Notre Dame Ohio State game, I'm going to find myself rooting for Notre Dame for a rare time because, holy Jerry Faust, there is a team that I despise more than Notre Dame, and it's Ohio State. That would be it. All right, you have fun, Lubie. People, stay tuned for the next editions of the morning briefing. Lubie's going to carry the reins there, and then I'll be back with you guys on Monday, hopefully with a fistful of cash after a big winning weekend, triggered by some of the picks that Mike will be giving away on the air. All right, see you next time. For Mike Lubie Lubitz, I'm Jeff DeForest, and that's today's edition of the morning briefing.